Book of Heaven, Volume 13. 3rd to the 15th of December 1921. Page 60 to 66. December 3, 1921. Redemption is salvation. The divine will is sanctity. I was feeling all doubtful and annihilated because of all that my Jesus says about his divine will, and I thought to myself, how is it possible that he let so many centuries go by without making known these prodigies of the divine will, and that he did not choose, among so many saints, one who would give start to this sanctity, fully divine? Yet, there were the apostles and many other great saints, who stupefied the whole world. Now, as I was thinking of this, not giving me time and interrupting my thought, he came and told me, "The little daughter of my will does not want to convince herself. Why do you still doubt?" Because I see myself bad, and the more you speak, the more annihilated I feel. And Jesus, this is what I want, your annihilation. And the more I speak to you about my will, since my word is creative, it creates my will in yours, and yours remains annihilated and dissolved before the power of mine. This is the reason for your annihilation. Know that your will must dissolve within mine, just as the snow dissolves at the rays of a burning sun. Now, you must know that the greater is the work I want to do, the more preparations are needed. How many prophecies, how many preparations, how many centuries did not precede my redemption? How many symbols and figures did not anticipate the conception of my celestial Mama? Then, after I accomplished redemption, I had to strengthen man in the goods of redemption, and for this I chose the apostles as the strengtheners of the fruits of redemption, as they were to look for the lost man and lead him to safety by means of the sacraments. Therefore, redemption is salvation, it is to save man from any precipice. This is why I told you another time that making the soul live in my will is greater than redemption itself, because being saved, living a life in the middle, now falling and now standing up, is not so difficult. And this was impetrated by my redemption, because I wanted to save man at any cost. And this I entrusted to my apostles, as the depositories of the fruits of redemption. So, having to do the least first, I left the most for later, reserving other times for the fulfillment of my high designs. Now, living in my will is not only salvation, but is sanctity which must rise over all other sanctities, and which must carry the seal of the sanctity of the Creator. Therefore, minor sanctities were to come first, as cortege, bearers, messengers and preparations for this sanctity which is fully divine. And just as in redemption I chose my incomparable Mama as the link of connection with me, from which the fruits of redemption had to descend, I chose you as the link of connection from which the sanctity of living in my will was to have its beginning. A sanctity which, coming out from my will to bring me the complete glory of the purpose for which man was created, would make man come back along the same steps of my will, in order to return to his Creator. What is your wondering then? These are things established from eternity, and no one will be able to move them. Since this thing is great, establishing my kingdom in the soul also on earth, I acted like a king who has to take possession of a kingdom. He does not go there first. Rather, first he has his royal palace prepared. Then he sends his soldiers to prepare the kingdom and to dispose the peoples to his subjection. Then follow the guards of honor and the ministers, and the last one is the king. This is decorous for a king. So I did, I had my royal palace prepared, which is the church. The soldiers have been the saints, in order to make me known to the peoples. Then came the saints who sowed miracles, as my most intimate ministers, and now I myself come to reign as the king. Therefore, I had to choose a soul in whom to establish my first dwelling, and in whom to found this kingdom of my will. So, let me reign, and give me full freedom. December 5, 1921. One who does not accept the gifts of God is ungrateful. The gift of the divine will was given to Luisa from the time of the renewal of mystical marriage before the Holy Trinity, 32 years before. Doubts and difficulties. Jesus answers them in advance. After I wrote that which is said above, I felt all concerned and, more than ever, annihilated. And as I began to pray, my always lovable Jesus came, and clasping me tightly to his heart, told me, "Daughter of my will, why do you not want to recognize the gifts that your Jesus wants to give you? This is highest ingratitude. Imagine a king, surrounded by his faithful ministers, and a poor boy, barefooted and ragged, who, taken by love of seeing the king, goes up to the royal palace, and making himself smaller than he is, looks at the king from behind the ministers, and then lowers himself for fear of being discovered. The king notices this, and while the boy is huddled behind the ministers, he calls him and takes him aside. The little one trembles and blushes, fearing of being punished, but the king presses him to his heart and says to him, "Do not fear, I took you aside to tell you that I want to raise you above all. I want you to surpass all the gifts that I gave to my ministers, nor do I want you to leave my royal palace ever again." If the boy is good, he will accept with love the proposal of the king. He will tell everyone of how good the king is. He will say it to the ministers, calling everyone to thank the king. If then he is ungrateful, he will refuse to accept, saying, "What do you want from me? I am a little one, poor, ragged and barefooted. These gifts are not for me." And he will keep in his heart the secret of his ingratitude. Is this not a horrendous ingratitude? And what will happen to that boy? So you are, because you see yourself unworthy, you would rather get rid of my gifts. And I, my love, you are right, but what concerns me the most is that you always want to speak about me. And he, it is right, it is necessary that I speak about you. Would it be nice if a bridegroom who is about to marry his bride, were forced to deal with others but not with her, while it is necessary that they confide their secrets to each other, that one know what the other has, that their parents provide this couple with a dowry, and that they become used to each other's ways in advance? And I added, "Tell me, my life, who is my family? What is my dowry and yours?" And smiling, he continued, "Your family is the Trinity. Don't you remember that in the first years of bed I took you to heaven and we celebrated our union before the Most Holy Trinity? It endowed you with such gifts that you yourself have not yet known, and as I speak to you about my will, about its effects and value, I make you discover the gifts with which, from that time, you were endowed. I do not speak to you about my dowry, because what is mine is yours." And then, after a few days, we, the three divine persons, descended from heaven, took possession of your heart, and formed our perpetual residence in it. We took the reins of your intelligence, of your heart, and of all of yourself. And everything you did was an outpouring of our creative will over you, and the confirmation that your will was animated by an eternal will. The work is already done. There is nothing left but to make it known, so that, not only you, but others also may take part in these great goods. And this I am doing by calling now one minister, now another, and even ministers from places afar, to make known to them these great truths. Therefore, this thing is mine, not yours, so, let me do. Even more, you must know that every time you manifest one additional value of my will, I feel so much contentment that I love you with multiplied love. And I, blushing about my difficulties, said, "My highest and only good, see how I have become more bad. Before I used to have no doubts about what you told me, now, no. How many doubts, how many difficulties. I myself don't know where I go fishing for them. And Jesus, do not worry about this either. Many times I myself cause these difficulties in order to answer not only you, confirming to you the truths that I tell you, but to answer all those who, in reading these truths, may find doubts and difficulties. I answer them in advance, so that they may find light, and all of their difficulties may be dissolved. Criticism will not be lacking. Therefore, everything is necessary." December 10, 1921. The fecundity of one act done in the divine will. As I was in my usual state, my always lovable Jesus came, telling me, "My daughter, how great is one act done in my will. See, if you ask the sun, how many seeds have you fecundated? How many of them have you multiplied from the moment you rose above our horizon? Neither the sun, nor any other creature, as learned as he might be, would be able to tell you, even with an approximate number, how many seeds it fecundated, or how many of them it multiplied. Now, one act done in my will is more than sun, which multiplies to infinity not human, but divine seeds. Oh, how it surpasses the fecundity and the multiplicity of the seeds that the sun has fecundated. An innovation in the spiritual world occurs, and such harmony that all are attracted. In hearing this harmony, those who are most disposed get warm. Thousands and thousands of effects arise like many seeds. And since the act done in my will carries the creative power with itself, it fecundates those seeds in a way which is incalculable to a finite mind. Therefore, the acts done in my will are divine seeds which carry with them the creative power and which, more than suns, not only fecundate, but create seeds, and multiply them to infinity. They give me the field for new creations, put my power in motion, and are the bearers of the divine life. December 15, 1921. Reordering oneself in Jesus by fusing oneself in His will. Only the acts done in the divine will give themselves back to the origin in which the soul was created, and take life within the sphere of eternity. As I was in my usual state, my always lovable Jesus, on coming, told me, "My daughter, reorder yourself in me." And do you know how you can reorder yourself in me? By fusing all of yourself in my will. Even the breath, the heartbeat and the air you breathe must be nothing but fusion in my will. So does order enter between creator and creature, and she returns to the origin from which she came. All things are in order, have their place of honor and are perfect, when they do not move from the origin from which they came. Once they move from the origin, all is disorder, dishonor, imperfection. Only the acts done in my will give themselves back to the origin in which the soul was created, and take life within the sphere of eternity, bringing to their Creator the divine homages and the glory of their own will. All other acts remain down below, waiting for the last hour of life, each to undergo its own judgment and the pain it deserves, because there is no act done outside of my will, even good, which can be called pure. The mere lacking aim at my will is to throw mud over the most beautiful works. And then, the mere moving from one's origin deserves a penalty. Creation was delivered on the wings of my volition, and on those same wings I would want it to return to me, but I wait in vain. This is why everything is disorder and confusion. Therefore, come into my will to give me, in the name of all, reparation for such great disorder.